My name is Candace Arnold, and my presentation is on Ireland labor unions. I apologize ahead of time. I have been sick, and I tried to get better before I recorded this, but it just didn't happen. This is for Management 6413, Industrial Relations, and let's begin. The first thing that we wanted to talk about is the history of Ireland's labor unions. In 1889, a new type of labor union began to emerge, and unions aimed to organize large groups of skilled workers as well as other unions for dockers, railwaymen, and general workers. And you just started seeing all these different types of unions popping up around Ireland. In 1912, partly under the influence of James Connolly, the ITUC established a political arm and became known as the Irish Labour Party and Trade Union Congress. In 1916, Congress passed a motion sympathizing with those who had died for their beliefs and trying to get this union started. In 1918, during the election, the Labour Party let the National Independence Movement run and turned the election into this virtual referendum on independence. This was the first time that a major majority of the working people voted. It basically became a semblance of independence at the time. In 1920, the Government of Ireland Act 1920 established Northern Ireland, giving organised Irish labour the distinction of organising in two political jurisdictions. This was a little complicated because so many of them had their head offices in the UK, but um, they were able to work in these different jurisdictions. In the 1920s and 30s, Ireland was hit with an economic depression and failing living standards. Kind of like the Great Depression in the U.S. The 1930s, the Labor Party and Congress separated on the peaceful terms, so they kind of disbanded. In 1940, tensions developed around Jim Larkin and the relations between the Ireland and British-based unions. Continuing on with more history, in 1945, this ended a split with the Irish-based unions forming the Congress of Irish Unions and the formation of the Northern Ireland Committee, or the NIC, of the ITUC. In the 1950s, there was a hard decade for Ireland with record low poverty levels and immigration. The first programme for economic expansion in 1958 and the retirement of De Valera sped up change, so hopefully in the good direction. In 1959, the Irish Congress of Trade Unions was formed from the two federal unions reuniting. In the 1960s, the 1964, the Northern Ireland Committee was formally recognized by the Northern Ireland government, and in 1969, the committee took a stand and is credited for preventing conflict from spilling over into the workplaces. In the 1970s, the oil prices caused wage increases to erode by inflation and increasing the taxes. Protests brought people into streets of Dublin never seen before, like tons, tons of people. It was threatening to be a full-scale repeat of the 1950s. I mean, they records of people on the streets. In 1987, an initiative from the ICTU led to the negotiation of the first of the current social partnership agreements, the Program of National Recovery. And in the 1990s, the era of centralized wage agreements, which began in 1987, continued throughout into the first decade of the 21st century. It was characterized as the era of partnership. However, in the 2000s, that bubble was burst with the subsequent downward economic place of the trade union movement and severe difficulty. It was decided that these centralized wage agreements were the key to the failure, so the partnership collapsed entirely, and Ireland has since worked on local level and sector wage bargaining. The current labor legislations, um, some of the main ones, the Payment of Wages and Amendment Tips and Wages Act of 2022. It gives new rights to employees, prohibiting the use of tips and gratuities to make up contractual rates of pay, and their base rate of pay is $12.70 per hour. The Minimum Notice of Terms of Employment Acts of 1973 to 2005, an employee or employer who intends to terminate a contract of employment must provide the other party with a specified minimum notice. The National Minimum Wage Act of 2000. This acts to provide for the determination, declaration, and review of a national minimum hourly rate of pay for employees. The entitlement of employees to remuneration of employment at a rate no less than or calculated by reference to the national minimum hourly rate, the calculation of employees' entitlements, the settlement of disputes relating to such entitlements, and the enforcement and recovery of wages, and the imposition of penalties for breaches of this act. So kind of an expansion on the payment of wages. And then the big one is the Industrial Relations Amendment Act of 2015. Um, And finally, the Industrial Relations Act provides a framework for workers looking to to improve their terms and conditions of employment where collective bargaining is not recognized by their employer. In the union numbers, there's currently 55 trades in the membership of the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. This represents about 600,000 members of the Republic of Ireland. Trade union members make up 35.1% of the Republic's working people, and this shows a decline over the years from 55.3% in 1980 and 38.5% in 2003. Roughly 50% of union members are in public sectors. Major unions are the Association of Higher Civil and Public Servants. Since 1943, the association has provided effective negotiation, representation, and backup services to senior civil servants and managers in the commercial and non-commercial state sector in Ireland with over 3,000 members. Their members are key policy influencers and public service providers who have made a major contribution to Irish life and administrative, economic, and social development since the foundation of the state. The next that I chose was the Association of Secondary Teachers in Ireland. Um, This one is the main second level teachers union. It represents 18,800 teachers in community schools, community colleges, comprehensive schools, and voluntary secondary schools. Uh, Teachers are very, very important, and Ireland is no different. Uh, this is a very important one to me, and I thought it was worth mentioning. Another one is the Building and Allied Trades Union. It represents several trades in Ireland, such as the bricklayers, carpenters, stonecutters, tilers, woodcutting machinists, and allied trades in the building industry, furniture industry, and public service. The also known as BATU, is an Irish union with an agenda. The Building and Allied Trades Union was founded in 1988 from the merger of two highly respected unions, the National Union of Woodworkers and Woodcutting, and the Ancient Guild of Incorporated Brick and Stone Layers and Allied Trades Union. They are most effective building workers union in Ireland and are committed to a fair deal for all building workers, furniture industry workers, and public sector workers, representing all of our trades equally and effectively in promoting a new vision of working life for all workers in our trades. This is per their website, their logo. You can go in and see in detail what this company stands for, and um, these people are very important. They're the very hands-on blue collar, and this is a very large percentage. Another one that I feel is important is the Connect group. The Connect Trade Union is the largest engineering union in Ireland and the second largest in manufacturing, representing up to 40,000 workers. Connect is, and then there are also some other ones that are worth mentioning. There's a communication workers union in the UK as well as Ireland specifically. The Communication Workers Union is the second biggest communications union in Europe and it has over 265,000 members in the UK. Ireland's premier union, Communications Workers Union, is for their postal, telecommunications, tech, and call center sectors. There's also the FBU, which is the Fire Brigades Union, representing firefighters and other workers within fire and rescue services. Another is the Financial Services Union, for financial services sectors, including banks and fintech companies, life assurance, as well as many, many more. There are, in my references, there's an actual link for uh, all of the unions that are offered in Ireland, and there are many different ones. Uh, the role of the government in the in union management in Ireland. Uh, Ireland is a parliamentary republic consisting of 26 countries or counties. I'm so sorry. The Prime Minister, who is also the head of government, is appointed by the President after nomination by the lower house and exercises executive power. The President, who is the head of the state, mostly has ceremonial powers, and the Parliament has two chambers, an upper and a lower house. The Workplace Relations Act of 2015 was enacted October 1st. The act substantially amended the primary employment and industrial relations legislation, providing the legal basis for the WRC and its simplified, more accessible process. The state's role in industrial relations in Ireland has been largely confined to facilitating the collective bargaining process through establishing legislation institutes to assist in the resolution of disputes between employers and workers. The main collective dispute mechanism is the labor court, which adjudicates collective industrial disputes. Responsibility for promoting good industrial relations in Ireland now rests with the Workplace Relations Commission, or the WRC, which provides a range of industrial relations services around preventing and resolving workplace disputes and disagreements involving groups of workers, individual workers, employers, and their representatives. Globalization on union management in Ireland, advantages of globalization, opportunities for Northern Ireland's businesses to trade with other countries, more business operating in Northern Ireland, leading to an increase in trade and employment. Differences in currency values may mean that imports become cheaper and exports more valuable. Access to new technologies developed in other countries, and exposure to new cultural experiences in the form of music, movies, books, television, food, and events. There are also disadvantages. These include the closure of some of the local manufacturing businesses, staff redundancies due to global competition. Local firms may struggle to meet rising demand from other countries. Differences in currency values may mean that imports become more expensive and exports less valuable. Bureaucratic issues such as filling out paperwork and getting correct permissions um, to send your into other countries, and it may be time consuming. Local businesses relocating to cheaper countries, taking jobs with them. And these are my references. I would like to point out that Ireland, that these are my point out that these are my references and that anything that you can find here can be found here. I'm not saying taking credit for any of this information. It's all been found and sorted. But I would also like to point out some things about our Ireland's um, Labor Act that I did not speak of earlier. It covers things like young people at work, that regulates employment and working conditions for children and young people, terms and conditions of employment. It makes it very specific. To improve the conditions, it gives a registered employment agreements and sectoral employment orders. Working annual, it gives the benefits for working hours, annual leave, and holiday leave, the Organization of Working Time Act, including maximum working hours, night work, annual leave, and public holiday leave. The Organization of Working Time gives statutory leave or the minimum amount of paid leave from work that you're legally entitled to in different versions. Maternity leave, um, paternity leave. I was trying to see if I wrote down exactly how long for maternity leave you are allowed. Paternity leave, you get 2 weeks. This must be taken in the first 6 months of their birth. Adoptive leave, so you are covered if you was to adopt a child instead of giving natural birth. Parental leave, for a period of unpaid parental leave for the children. Parents leave, it provides 7 weeks of paid parents leave for a child born or adopted. It aims to let working parents spend more time with their baby and adopted child during the first 2 years of their life. So it's expanded beyond what Americans have for paternity leave. Careers leave gives employees the right to take temporary unpaid carers leave to care for someone who needs full-time attention. Sick leave, domestic violence leave, and then other basic work law requirements, equality in the workplace, safety at work, um, part-time, fixed-term agency, whistleblowing, business takeovers, and it's just goes on. There is a link for the Industrial um, Relations Act for, and I hope everybody's enjoyed this. I'm sorry that my nose is plugged up, but I've really enjoyed this class, and I've definitely learned more about labor unions, and really hope some other people take advantage of this class as well.